All right, it is 5 o'clock. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see the questions, and we are going to get started. So here we go, sharing, because sharing is caring. That's what they say anyway. But what if it's the cooties? I just don't believe that to be true. I don't think you should share the cooties. That's just my thought on that. So. Boop-a-doo. I reformatted a bit. Hopefully this works better than it was the other day. And hopefully everybody on my YouTube page can see it. Let me press refresh. And let's see. Do 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 do. All right, we're gonna start with question 56. I don't know if that's where we left off, but that's where we're going to start because I also, did them. Crystal, you emailed me some math questions. All right, so let me take a look at those. Uh, mm, mm. Let me see if I can find these email questions. I done to near. Let's see. We are trying to see if we can find these from you. Let's see. Oh, okay. We got some questions. So let me switch over to just a blank page to write on, and then I will read the questions to you all because there's no way to get it from my email to the screen. So let's see. Hmm. All right. The first picture you gave me was just of the formulas. So, Crystal, I am not quite sure what you're asking there, but in general, when we're doing formulas for area, if you have a rectangle, which is going to be 4 90-degree angles, then you got your width and you got your length. And so that's going to be area is equal to length times width. And then they have triangle. Okay, that's not a very straight triangle, but if this was a 90-degree angle, this could be your width, this could be your length. Area is equal to your length times your width, but you're going to divide it by 2. So I'm not quite sure, Crystal, if you want to put in the chat what your question is about this one. I'm not I'm not understanding. Is there a question on that? Like, go ahead and you can just unmute and ask me, Crystal.
Okay. Above the square, it had the 100. I guess is that 100 degrees or 100 inches?
No, so above the square, it says 100 like this. That's feet. So it's telling you this is 100 and this is 100 and the first one, and then that was 100. So that is telling you what is the feet. What's the measurement of that piece?
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. I was like, what is that supposed to be?
Yeah, okay. And then our next one says a recent sale generated a gross commission of $2,000. So we got a commission and it is $2,000. Licensee A received 2% of the sales price. All right. So the licensee A got 2% of the sales price. You've got a broker received, that's brokers, call them broker, received 5% of the sales price. You've got licensee B received 3% of the sales price. How much in dollars did licensee A, the broker, and licensee B respectively receive from this sale? Okay, so I'm assuming, I've not seen this question in a while, but I'm assuming that what they want us to do is we know when you get a total commission, like when you look at just the actual whole commission, that number is a percentage of the sales price. So altogether, if 2% of the sales price went to licensee A and 5% of the sales price went to the broker and 3% of the sales price went to the other licensee, that's a total of 10%. So we know that $2,000 is going to be 10% of whatever the sales price was. So we could solve that and say, oh, well, our sales price must be $2,000 divided by 10%, which isn't that 20? That's 20,000. I'm not going to try to move my zeros right now. $2,000 divided by 10%, that's going to be $20,000. Right? So that's the sales price. Well, now we got to figure out if there's a sales price of $20,000, what is 2% of that? What is 5% of that? And what is 3% of that? So what I would do just to make my life easier, I could do 20,000 times 2%, 20,000 times 5%, 20,000 times 3%. But I'm just going to say, if I take this 20,000, let's make it pretty. If I take this 20,000 and I multiply it by 1%, that gives me $200. So if this is 1%, 2% has to be, if that's a 2, by the way, then 2% has to be $400. 5 times 2 would be $1,000. And 3 times 2 would be 200, would be $600. So the answer would be A, none of the above. That was the answer, but this would be your answer. Does that make sense? Yes?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, that one's sideways. The appraised value of a property is $52,350. If it is assessed at 38% of the appraised value and the tax rate is 95 mils, what are the quarterly property taxes? And we know that most people are going to have to do property taxes. So let's write down what the problem gave us. We have a appraised value. Just the value in general is $52,350. And it's telling you the tax value is going to be 38% of the value. And it's telling you the tax rate is 95 mils. And it's asking us what is the quarterly, pretend like that says quarterly. It's going to bother me. Quarterly tax amount. So first, we're going to have to figure out what the taxes are for the year. Well, we know that the value is $52,350, but that's not what we're paying taxes on. We've got to find 38% of that. So 52,350 times 38% gives me 19,893. That is our assessed value. So whatever the taxes are, we're going to base it off of this assessed value. You're not going to pay taxes on 52 like your property's worth 52,000. You're paying taxes as if the property's only worth 19,000, almost 20. And for people who are just coming in a little late, I had somebody email me some math questions. I know on YouTube you all are seeing this a little late, and that's why you can't see the questions I'm doing. But hey, people, you all have questions. I'm going over them. And then once we finish these, we'll get into some more practice questions. So now we've got to figure out the amount of taxes. Well, if our tax value is 19,893 and we're dealing with mills, you know what I like to tell you to do is go take something. Whenever you're trying to find a tax amount and it has to do with mills, your key is MILL, which is 1000. You need to go ahead and divide something by 1,000. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and divide this by 1,000. So when I do that, what I'm going to get is 19,893 divided by 1,000. Did I just do that in my, I really could have just done that in my head, but that's okay. 19.893. That's the number of thousands, basically. It's what I'm trying to say here is when we do mills, a mill is 1/10 of 1 cent. And if you were to put 0.01 divided by 10 into your calculator, you're going to get 0.001. It's it's thousandths. This is tenths, this is hundredths place, this is thousandths place. That's why you're dividing by 1,000, because this is a decimal, so we're trying to make it smaller. We're doing a smaller piece. So if we got 19.893, I can multiply that by the 95 now, and that's going to give me $1,889 and let's call it 84 cents. That is the total tax amount. And I promise that's, let's see, isn't it an answer there? Yep, that's an answer on our answer choices. But that's not the answer, because we're looking for quarterly. And that means we've split the year into 4 equal pieces. So I'm going to take the 1889.84 and I'm going to divide that by 4. So divided by 4, and that equals 472 and 46 cents or so. And of course, if you're on YouTube, you are more than welcome to email me a question if you have it. Hey, Caroline, a different Caroline today, but there you go. So our answer should be the 472.45, which is correct. 472, 45, 46. On the test, they generally round to like the whole dollar anyway, so don't worry about the decimals, like not a big deal. All right. Our next one is, ooh, I like this one. It says you've got this shape. So we're going to go with, there's a piece of land that is shaped like, doop-a-doop-a-doo. That was not a very good. I can draw. Boop. Boop. So this is not to scale, but that's fine. And this drawing says up here, this is 285 feet. Right here is 175 feet. Need to do better with my 5s. Down here you have it is 85 feet. And over here you have it's 175 feet. All right. Hello, Trix. We're just doing some math. We have some math questions. Then it's telling you this right here is a 90-degree angle. and its height is 150 feet. And I'm not going to say necessarily they're asking you a question right here, but you could figure out the total area of this shape. And the way you do that is we know this is one big shape, but we could turn this into a triangle here. Pretend like I drew that together. That's just terrible. You got this triangle right here. We'll call this A. And you have this triangle right here. We'll call this B. And then you got this triangle right here. Pretend like I can draw a straight line. That's going to be C. By coming up with the area of each side, you will be able to get the total area there, all right? So where I would start would be with, we know we're going to have an A, we're going to have a section B, we're going to have a section C. Go back to black. Let's start with B because we know it's a square. We know this, well, let's just say rectangle. It kind of looks like this. Right? And we know, well, where would I start? Would I start there? We know it's a part of 285. And well, I could do this problem, but it is going to take a second. I don't think they're going to ask you this, but let me work through it. What I would need to know is how long is, I guess it's not too long. It's 150 feet this way, and I know it's 85 feet this way. So when I do 85 times 150, that means it's 85 times 150. That means it is 12,750 feet. That's how big B is. Well, A is we can go ahead and assume this is a right triangle, because if this is a right triangle, then this has to be a right triangle. So we know for A, what we can do is we can say area is equal to length times width, and then whatever that is, we're dividing it by 2. Now, what I remember from school is this slanted piece is the hypotenuse. And we don't want that. That when we find the area of a right triangle, we don't want that, the one that's on an angle. We only want the 2 lines that are attached to the 90-degree angle. So that's going to be 150, because this piece right here is 150. Right? So that's going to be, let's call this 150 times, what is this piece right here? Now, I'm assuming they want us to assume that those two things are the same. So if you've got 285 and this down here is 85, that leaves between these two pieces, between the piece A and the piece B, you have 200 feet. And if they're the same, like if this piece is the same width as that one, and you got 200 feet to divvy up, that means it's 100 each. So you're going to take 150 times 100 and divide it by 2. So 150 times 100, and then we'll divide that by 2. So that's going to be 7,500 square feet. And we know that C should be exactly the same because it's a mirror image. This is 100 and this is 150. And so we know it's a right angle. So this is also 75 square feet. So we would add not 17, but 12,750 plus the 7,500. That's a 5 plus 7,500. And that would give you a total answer. It's not asking you to do that, but that's how you would do it. So Crystal, does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. All right. Next, you have a seller net problem. Seller net. This is a very popular problem in a lot of states. Owner wants to net $45,000. So the desired net is $45,000 after paying $2,000 in closing costs. $30,000 on the first mortgage. And $800 in miscellaneous fees. And a commission is 7.5%. And what it's asking is, what is the minimum sales price? What is the minimum sales price? So let me ask you this question, Crystal, because I could go about this a couple ways. Do you know where you were going to start, or you're completely lost?
So I think you add all of the charges here.
Yep.
Net, the closing, the first mortgage, the fees. And
Yep.
then for the commission, I think you take 100 minus 7.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you did that, did you not get the right answer?
I think that one didn't give us the answer.
Okay, so let's do it together. So we got 45,000 plus 2,000 plus 30,000 plus 800. And that's going to give us, those numbers all together are $77,800. And we know that $77,800 represents, and this is the 7.5%. So we know that this part, if the other part is 7.5, we could subtract that from 100, and we know that part right there is 92.5%. So if we know there was a sales price, if we multiplied it by 92.5%, we would get $77,800, which means our sales price is 77.8 divided by 92.5%. And that gives us a sales price of 84,108. Does that make sense? Yes?
Yes.
Cool. Oh, good, Trix. I'm glad. Oh, you said, oh, lovely math. I feel like there was a little sarcasm in that, oh, lovely math there, Miss Trixie. I feel it. I know. I know. There's a lot of math on this test if if you are not in California. If you're in California, you are conveniently, you don't have to do this on the test. But let me tell you, this is one of the few direct real life questions. You're going to go to a listing appointment if you are going into residential real estate, and somebody's going to say to you, well, hey, I need to put in my pocket $45,000 for my next down payment and have all these things I need to pay off. What is the minimum I can take? Like, we might put this thing on the market for 100,000. And I hope it sells for that. But realistically, I cannot take something less than 84,108, because if I do, I won't have enough money to pay out what I need to pay. This is a very, very real life scenario. So California, whatever we call you, people from California, all I know is I'm a Michigander now. Um, you need to know this in real life, even though it's not on your test. All right. Is there another one? Nope, that's it. So did that help, Chris Crystal?
Yes, thank you.
Yay, good. All right, so let me get to our questions. Boom. And grab a little more water. Starting with 56. choose a different color, purple. The principle of contribution states that the principle of contribution states that a property's value is the sum of its parts. B, improvements increase value only to the extent they contribute to market value. C, properties of similar value should be located together. And D, the best use of land is determined by zoning. I see you all in the tricks. Trick said you're considering moving to California. I feel you. I understand what you're saying there. And, the math is somewhat helpful. It's helpful. Not fun, but helpful. So what do we know? We know that there are some principles of value. There are different principles of value, like we've got substitution, you've got anticipation, there's progression, there's regression. There are all of these principles of value, which is us saying this is how you are going to how we assume value works. Like you assume if you put a bowling ball into water, it is going to sink. You put some a bowling ball in a bathtub of water, it goes to the bottom. But not always. And I say that because I know we've all heard of the Dead Sea, but if the salt content is high enough, that thing will float. It will float. It's like if you ever get to go to a sensory deprivation tank where you get to float and it's amazing. It's one of my favorite things. You can put a bowling ball in there and it floats as if it was like just a little feather on top of the water. So it's not always true that a bowling ball is going to sink, but it's a pretty good, hey, you throw a bowling ball into some water, it's probably going to sink. That's what our principles are. And in this case, we just have to know our definitions. A property's value is the sum of its parts. Well, that's not necessarily true. And you know why? Because do you remember learning about plottage? Plottage makes this wrong. That is not always true. So let's say you had a street and it had 3 lots. It had 3 lots. They're all the same. I know my drawing is not equal, but whatever. And maybe let's say each lot individually is worth $20,000. So you got 20,000 here, you got 20,000 there, you got 20,000 there. Well, you would assume if somebody bought both of these lots right here, we made this one big lot, that it would be worth $40,000. But it's probably not. Why? Because if there's a neighborhood and there's all these $20,000 lots, the one that is twice as big is worth more money because it's rare. So instead of being worth $40,000, somebody might say that lot is worth $60,000 because it's bigger and it's hard to find a big lot. So yeah, this is not necessarily true all the time. B, improvements increase value only to the extent they contribute to the market value. Okay, I don't hate that one. You got C, properties of similar value should be located together. Well, that is not what that says. There's no principle that says, hey, you got to keep things together. There is a principle that says conformity, that says things keep their value when they do conform, when things are around other properties that are similar, but that's not this one. And then you have the best use of land is determined by zoning. Nope, that is not going to be it either, which means, make that a little bigger there. It means our answer most definitely is B, improvements increase value only to the extent they contribute to market value. So what we know, good job, Marilyn. Caroline, is you got that. I said Marilyn. I don't even know where that came from. That's your new name, Marilyn. What we know is, and I was just teaching this in my Sunday class. Let's say you have a very suburban kind of basic house. I mean, it's suburbia, and you've got this, I don't know, 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath just, a normal house in suburbia. If you were to add a master bed and a master bath, right? Primary, I guess we'll call it now. The primary bath, you just were like, I want this super duper primary. And let's say you added a pool. You just were like, I don't want to move. We're just going to make this house bigger. Maybe you just added, I don't know, $95,000 worth of value. Because you have this suburban-esque house, you just increased the value of your house by $95,000. Okay. But if you took this same master bedroom and bathroom and that same pool and you put them onto a property in a trailer park, are you still going to get $95,000 worth of new value from that? Probably not. Most likely not. So what this is trying to say is when you make an improvement, we can't just say, oh, the improvement always adds $95,000. You have to look at what you improved. The improvement is going to be taken, the value of the improvement is considered by what are you improving? What is this being attached to? So yes, our answer is B. Okay. So it depends on the area you're at. I mean, it depends more so it does depend on the area you're at, and it depends more so on what you improved. Even if you had two houses, like you had a trailer and a house next to each other, it would be the same thing. Both could add a master bedroom, bath, and pool, and the exact same master bedroom, bathroom, and pool. But because you added it to a trailer, it's generally not going to add as much value. So I wouldn't say so much the area as what is it that you are improving. But area does matter. Once you all start practicing, there's something called the cost and value report versus value report. And this is probably some of the best advice I could give you all. If you are practicing, a lot of agents don't know about this. This is bonus time. It is called the cost versus value report. And I used to look this up every year. I don't sell anymore really, so I haven't. But what they'll do is they'll go through and they'll say, okay, what's the national average? So if you added a master, like a new full bath, how much would that cost and how much value would it add? So your cost might be, I don't know, $40,000, and they'll tell you that's going to add, the value to that might be because you added another bath, maybe it's 35,000. They'll say what it is on a national level, and then they'll say, okay, they break it down, I think, into like 6 sections. You got the Southeast, you got the Midwest, you got the Northeast, you got like the Northwest, and they break it down by like sectioning off the United States. And I do believe they section it off by state. And there's all sorts of improvements. So when you all are talking to a buyer or seller, and they're talking about, oh, well, I really want this, or I really want that, or oh, look, they updated their foyer. You can look and say, okay, well, even if they did do this, even if they added a deck, how much did that really add? Or if you want to add a deck, do you want to buy this house that has no deck? Are you going to get the value from it? This cost versus value report is amazing, especially in helping you all understand, how to, when you're doing a CMA. It's been a while since I've talked about that, but very, very helpful. And you all, it's not something you have to get because you're a real estate agent. You all, after this, could just type in cost versus value report and it's going to pop up. And sometimes, okay, this is turning into a coaching moment, but I'm okay with that. Sometimes you all, when you get licensed, you're like, how do I stand out? How do I make people, know that I'm in real estate and want to choose me, that I know what I'm talking about? If you choose to do the social media type of advertising, marketing of yourself. Why not? If you're in the Southeast, why not say, did you know adding a half bath to your home, to the average home in the Southeast, will cost you, uh, I don't know, $20,000, but might add $35,000 in value. If you have more questions or thinking about adding or selling or moving, please call me. It is great fodder for that. So that's your coaching moment for the day. Everybody owes me $5. Buy me a coffee. Buy me a hot chocolate. So, all right. Number 57. What which of the following is considered personal property? Which of the following is considered personal property? A freestanding refrigerator, landscaping trees, built-in cabinetry, or central heating system? Which one of these is considered personal property? All right. Miss Rosalinda, you said A. Crystal, you said A. Hey, Grayson. Anybody have a thought on YouTube is? But this is a pretty, I'm not going to say easy, because if you're just starting out on this, yeah, thanks, Trix. If you're just starting out on this, then you may not know what personal property is. It's anything that's not real property, anything that's not attached to the real property. And the only thing here, like landscaping trees are in the ground. If you turn the ground upside down, the world upside down, the tree is still going to be, it's just going to be hanging upside down. Same with the cabinetry. And the central heating system is usually bolted into the ground as well. So our answer for this is A, freestanding refrigerator. Number 58. A deed restriction that prohibits the sale of property to certain protected classes would be, is it A, unenforceable as a violation of the Fair Housing Act, B, valid if recorded before 1968, C, enforced by local zoning authorities, or D, enforceable under private property rights? What say you? You said you love the new video. It's like one of the Lifetime movies. Oh, I am doing more tricks. There are more on the way. I already have the story. This story is about somebody losing their title. Yeah, so there's literally one on the way, tricks. So be on the lookout, maybe tonight, but probably more like tomorrow. Caroline says, you like the music and video too? Oh, Tricks, you're the best. All right, we got A's, we got A's, we got A's. And A stands for apple, because I really want an apple pie. I might break down and do that tonight. So A is our answer. You know you can't do that. You know you can't do that. And remember, guys, as you're studying, you want to say, well, what do I know about the Fair Housing Act? Can I rattle off the top of my head all the protected classes, Fred's Corn, familial status, race, disability, color, sex, religion, and national origin? That is why taking test questions are so great on a multiple, not just, oh, this one topic. But you never want to forget. Maybe it was been a couple weeks since you looked at fair housing stuff. It's always good to remind yourself. You always got to have to review and learn new. All right, 59. Equity in a property is calculated as. Equity in a property is calculated as, is it purchase price minus the down payment? Is it market value minus the mortgage balance? Is it appraised value minus closing costs? Or is it assessed value minus property taxes? What say you? All right, we got a B. Marily says it's 59 is B. Waiting for my YouTube people. I know there's a little bit of a delay. I know, it's okay. And Tricks, if there's other topics in real estate you want me to make a video like that Lifetime movie video thing on, just like Reddit, let me know. Got A, okay. We got B, we got an A. Okay, well, we know, let's eliminate, because you know this is the best way to answer these questions. Appraised value minus closing costs. Your closing costs are about the loan. This ain't got nothing to do with value. No. Assessed value minus property taxes. Well, no. We use the assessed value to find property taxes. So is it market value minus the mortgage balance or the purchase price minus the down payment? Well, let's take a look at this. Let's say, I mean, let's say I could draw a straight line. And let's say this house is worth 100,000. That is the value of the house. Well, when you buy the house, maybe you put down $15,000. And that means your loan is for $85,000. We know that equity is the money that if you were to sell the house, what would go to you? Equity is the value in the home that if you sold the house tomorrow, you would not have to use to pay back the bank for any kind of loan that you have. So when it says A, purchase price minus the down payment, if we take off the down payment, what that leaves us with is the loan, and the loan is the opposite of equity, making our answer once again B. How many of our answers have been B? I asked it to A, B. Okay, I asked it to the system to mix these up. So we'll see if they're still all B. I didn't test it. I just said, do this for me, AI. So we'll see. But B is our answer. All right, 60. A seller who provides financing to a buyer and retains legal title until the loan is paid off has created a what? A seller who provided financing to a buyer and retains legal title until the loan is paid off has created what? You tell me what you're thinking. Okay, we got an A, a land contract. We got a B. Wait, no. Trix, you said 60 is A. Juana, you said it's B. I said do finance and math, only I can make them more fun. I think we say that I'm just a nut. Rosalinda, you said C. Crystal, you said A. Marilla, you said A. All right. So luckily, nobody. Hey, Mary. Um, look, Mary. Let me take a break for a second. Mary is in Michigan. Mary, you knew I was gonna move back to Michigan. Why'd you let me do this? It's so cold. I mean, granted, it's, warmer today, but I was not ready for this cold and this snow. I'm struggling over here. Mhm. But we know it's not a deed of trust, and we know it's not a mortgage because those two things are collateral documents. Whether you're in a lien theory state or a title theory state, how the bank handles your house as collateral depends on did they use a deed of trust or did they use a mortgage? So now we've got land contract or lease option. Well, a lease option is a lease with an option to buy. Meaning, if I am the landlord and Mary is going through and she's saying, you know what, Candace, I have this lease, but if I decide to buy this property, you are promising it to sell it to me. Like we have a lease. It is a full contract. She's renting from me and I'm getting my rent and blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's for a year. Maybe Mary is moving to, someplace new. Maybe she's moving to, a city in Michigan she hasn't lived before and she doesn't know if she likes it. Right? She, has been warmer. Yes, girl, it has. But she doesn't know she likes it. So she might lease it from me for a year. And then at the end of that lease, she has an option, meaning it's a unilateral contract. In that lease, I've said, you know what, Mary, if you want to buy it, I promise to sell it to you, and let's go ahead and figure out what you want to buy it for. It is a literal lease, plus you've got an option. And in that option, in exercising that option, when she pays me the money for the sales price, it's hers. Mhm. However, when a seller provides financing to a buyer and retains legal title until the loan is paid off, that is a land contract, otherwise known as a contract for deed or an installment land contract. I know you can't tell that really says contract, but it does. So that's a great question because they are kind of, I can see how they would feel similar, but very different things. All right. I think I'm done with purple. You know what we haven't done in a while? Pink. Come back. I don't want orange. I want pink. Where's pink? It's kind of this. All right. The right of a defaulting borrower to pay off the debt and recover the property before the foreclosure sale is called. The right of a defaulting borrower to pay off the debt and recover the property before foreclosure sale is called A, subordination, B, defeasance, C, statutory redemption, or D, equitable redemption. I gotta say, Claude, the AI, did a good job on these questions. They're hitting a lot of things that I would say you need to know for this test, even if it's not the answer you're looking for. If you were to go through and say, hey, do I know what all these answer choices mean? This is a great review. So Rosalinda, you said it's either C or D. You can't remember which. All right. Caroline said it is C for carrots. And I know what you're saying there. I know what you're trying to say there, Miss Caroline, with your C for carrots. Let me get you what you're looking for here. It is, where is it? Where is it? I wasn't prepared. I don't know why, but
I like carrots, and you should too. It goes crunch, 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 and it's good for you. We like carrots, and you should too. It goes crunch, crunch, crunch.
All right. So we got C. Now, let me, I could draw this out, but instead I'm going to use my slides, what I teach from. So guys, I had closed my thing out, so you're going to see a lot of screens going by quickly, but it'll be so much better than me trying to draw this out. Did I open this up recently? So my full files that I teach from, I meant to upload the 26. What are we talking about? Leases, equity. Sorry, I gotta find it here, but I promise it'll be worth it if you just let me make you sick here by scrolling. Making myself sick here by scrolling. Ugh. No, 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 no. Those are types of loans, PMI, conventional loans, rates, amortization, foreclosures. Here we go. It was worth it. So we're talking about, I made my own self dizzy, loan redemption. When somebody defaults on a loan, let's actually go here. Somebody defaults on a loan. You miss a payment. We officially say you're in default, and a bank doesn't have to foreclose on you right away. Remember how much money a bank makes when you pay your loan. Banks don't want to foreclose on y'all. That's money they don't get. Because after they foreclose on you, they're getting the rest of their investment back, but they're not getting any extra interest. I will answer that in a second, Miss Mary. So when you miss a payment, they're not usually going to just the next day be like, oh, we're going to foreclose. No, they're going to give you some time to fix it. Eventually, they're going to say, all right, if you've missed enough months, we're going to start foreclosure process. And then there's going to be an auction sale, and you will no longer own this. Like we're going to get our money back. Before the actual auction sale, you have the right before the sale to redeem yourself. The equitable right of redemption before the sale. You can say, just kidding. I know I missed 3 payments. Here's the 3 payments and the late fees. Haha, just let me continue with my mortgage. And a bank will generally be like, okay, because we're trying to get all this interest from you. Now, in some states, there is a law, statutory. There is a law that says even after the auction sale, there is the ability for the borrower who defaulted to still make things right and stop this process for a certain amount of time. Right? And that's the statutory right of redemption. But really what I want to show you all, guys, is the E comes before the S. So in the timeline, E comes before S the same way that it happens in the alphabet. So I don't know if that helps you, but there you go. Yay. And if you want to take a picture of this, you all know you're always more than welcome to. And just so you know, because it's on here, when you hear about foreclosures that are not purchased, that is an REO or real estate owned by the bank. Most people, when they say, oh, I want to buy a foreclosed home, they're talking about they want a house that wasn't bought at foreclosure. The bank doesn't want it on their books, and boom. All right. Mary, you said, do I think I'm taking the state exam at home or in Southfield? I would never take my state exam at my house, if that's what you're asking. I think in Michigan I have that. I live in Novi, so I'll probably take it in Southfield, which is where I grew up for the first 18 years. So I will take it in, Southfield, because, yeah. But I would not take it at home. And I say this to anybody, if given the chance to take your licensing exam at home, do not. A lot of people have problems with it. If your internet blinks, there's a problem. If they think you're cheating, there's a problem. So I don't ever encourage people to take their tests at home. Plus, it's your house, and just go and take it. And, it's going to be somewhat quieter. It's going to be more, official. It's just, to me, it's not worth the risk of trying to take it at home. So, all right, we're back to our questions. So back to 61, the right of the defaulting borrower, come back, to pay off the debt and recover the property before the foreclosure sale is called, well, it's before, and that means it's the equitable redemption. I thought I changed you to pink. There we go. Equitable redemption. Woohoo. All right. 62. Which statement about joint tenancy is true? If you listen to my song, you might know the answer. Right? Yeah, Tricks, they just added the home test in Connecticut. Let me tell you, a lot of states, when COVID happened, a lot of states were like, oh, if you have an internet connection, you can take it at home. And a lot of states were like, no, this is not a good idea. I would never take it at home because it's just too fragile. Plus, you're going to have to pick up your camera or your computer. You're going to have to show them that there's nothing that you're cheating from. If somebody were to walk in the room you're taking it in and accidentally start talking to you, you could possibly not get credit. It's just too much. Okay, well, Tricks, yes, for your disability accommodations, then yes, you do it. But that is because of, your disability accommodations. That makes sense, but I don't want to say average because that says the wrong thing, but for most people, it's just better to take it, on site. So there we go. So joint tenancy, which one is true? Which means 3 of these are going to be false and 1's going to be true. We got A, tenants may acquire title at different times. B, interest may be unequal. C, A will can transfer a joint tenant's interest, or D, right of survivorship applies. What say you? Caroline, what happens if you lose your internet connection? A lot of times they just consider it a failed test and you'd have to pay to take it again. Uh-huh. And in states where, like, I want to say California is one of those states where you can take it as many times as you want. Some states say you got 3 chances to take and pass this licensing exam. And if you don't pass it after 3 chances, you got to take pre-license again. Not cool. Not cool. All right. So you all are telling me D, 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 D. I see your question there, Grayson. And since it's a North Carolina question, I'm going to hit you up with that. You stay after. That's a North Carolina specific kind of thing. And so you stay after when I end and I'll answer it for you. Anybody who's North Carolina, that's fine. And if, all right, so back to this one. Our answer is D. Why? Because we know joint tenancy, you have to have PITT. Possession has to be equal. Interest has to be equal. You got to get equal title, like on the same deed, and it's got to be at the same time. Again, shameless plug. Shameless plug to go to my channel and watch my new video. And by my video, I mean what I put together with AI. Yep. So that's that. All righty. Number 63. A property manager's primary fiduciary duty. I look at this and I go, ooh, primary. What is a property manager? What's their main goal? Their main thing, their primary fiduciary duty is to, right? So who are they giving the main fiduciary duties to? Is it the tenants, the maintenance staff, the local housing authority, or the property owner? Number 63. Caroline, you said possession, internet, title, and time. Right. Tenants, maintenance staff, local horse, not local horrors authority, local housing authority, or the property owner. Well, guys, I know you know this. It's going to be D, the property owner, because a property manager, their client is the owner, and you owe fiduciary duties to your client. So there you go. Ooh, 64. 64 is a great example of what I say to everybody. Unless you're in California, you know you have math on this test. But over the years, it's been, what year is it? Well, yeah, I'm coming up on 18 years of teaching. Over the years of pre-licensing, I noticed that there's fewer and fewer math questions, but they didn't just stop testing you on the concepts. This is basically a math question in disguise. Is that how you spell disguise? It is now. I think that says disguise. I don't know. This is where spell check has ruined us. I don't know how to spell anything anymore. I even go through now and I'm like, I'll just ask the one that listens that's name rhymes with Rerexa. I just ask how to spell things now, even if I'm just writing like a note or something. I'm like, ooh, let me make sure that's right. So this is a math question in disguise, because if you're taking the math version, like this would be the equivalent of them saying, here's all these numbers. How do you find NOI? What's the formula for finding NOI? It's a math question in disguise. So we got potential gross income minus mortgage payments, gross income minus operating expenses minus debt service, gross income minus vacancy and collection losses, effective gross income minus operating expenses. Ooh. Girl, Caroline, your typing is terrible. My handwriting is terrible. So we are a great pair. Which one is it? Now, let me go here and let me go to my files. Let me go to math. Let me go to this. I was just doing this with my students. This is a sample operating budget, and this sheet came directly from my old commission. Well, I mean, they're still my commission because I'm still licensed in North Carolina. But I love this example because it makes it very clear. When you are a property manager, one of your duties is to create an operating budget. Hey, this is what I think, seller, your house, not your house, your property with all these units, here's what I think you're going to make next year. I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't do property management, because that's a lot of numbers. Everybody's got to pay rent and security deposits. And I don't number well. Y'all know that. But let's look at it. You've got, in one hand, what we call the gross potential income. We're saying if every unit was rented for every single day, there was no anything, no anything that went wrong. Every single unit was rented every single day. Nobody missed a payment. You could, in theory, make $1.4 million, $1,458,000. That's the potential you could make. But we all know that potential is some bullcrap. Most people do not meet their potential unless you are Michael Jordan or Oprah or somebody like that. Pretty sure we can say Obama met his potential. Like, cool. But most of us do not meet our potential for whatever reason. So you can't buy an investment property, or you shouldn't look at the potential income and be like, that's how much money I'm going to make this year. Absolutely not, because people be peopling. As a property manager, you should know that, hey, on average, what's my vacancy rate? Because I'm an experienced property manager, I know that we usually have about a 5% vacancy rate. And I also know that, we have laundry and, vending, and that's going to bring in some money as well. So what I know is, yeah, we probably won't get $72,900, but we'll be able to offset that a little bit because of this money coming in. So really, our effective gross income, what we effectively should probably bring in, is $1,395,900. It's just like when you have a salary. When you go for salary negotiations, what they like to say is, hey, your gross salary is, $80,000. Okay. That's before taxes come for you and all those other things you got to pay when you're employed. Yeah. Your gross salary is before anything comes out. Right? There you go. Well, we know it takes money to make money. So yeah, you might bring in $1,395,900, but you had to hire a manager. There goes $139,000. You had to have maintenance personnel, because I'm not going out there to fix your stuff. You had to have security. There's property taxes, property insurance, utilities. I mean, you see this. You got to advertise, maintenance, legal services. When you add all of these things up, oh, we forgot that one. That's $501,000 to run the property. In order to make this $1,395,000, you had to spend $501,390, which means your net operating income is actually $894,510. That is a long way from the $1.4 million you thought you were getting. Nope. It takes money to make money, so your net operating income is $894,000. Now, there were also some other words on that answer choice. Whenever you're doing net operating income, this is a way when appraisers are doing the income approach to find value. When you own an apartment complex, maybe you own it, maybe you have a mortgage on it. But either way, if I'm getting ready to sell my apartment complex, it's none of your business. whether or not I have a mortgage on it or I own it outright. How much I spend in mortgage payments should have no effect on the value. It's just none of your business. So what we're going to do is we are going to say, look, we never, ever, ever, ever include our debt service, which is a fancy way of saying mortgage, principal, and interest. We never include that in our NOI because that's too variable. Whether or not there's a mortgage should not have anything to do with the value. We don't include it in NOI. But if you were to take your net operating income, you take out your debt service, you take out your capital expenditures, what did you do to the property to make it worth more money? After you do all that, you look at how much money you have in the bank, and that would be $202,000. Your before tax cash flow, if you have a mortgage, is $202,000. Seriously? We started at $1,458,000. But when you really look at it, what you made so that you can go buy me something, it's $202,000. That's a big difference. Investing and seeing something's an investment means you look at all of the little different pieces and what does this really look like money-wise. We call this the before tax cash flow, or sometimes they just call it the cash flow. This is before taxes. You would pay to the IRS taxes on $202,506, not the $894 or the $1.48 million. So going back to our questions, net operating income is calculated as potential gross income minus mortgage payments. Nope, we don't use mortgage payments in NOI. Gross income, okay, minus operating expenses minus debt service. Well, once again, debt service is mortgage payments, ixnay. Gross income, all right, minus vacancy and collection losses. That's not bad. But then you also have effective gross income minus operating expenses. Remember, net operating income has to take into account the expenses. The gross income minus vacancy and collection losses, well, that right there is our effective gross income. Our effective gross income. Oopsie pie. So what we want is not C. Stop that. This would be our effective gross income. Right? Instead, we want to take our effective gross income and then we subtract out those operating expenses. This is our answer. Whoop, whoop. All right. I know I went a little bit long today. I'm sorry. But as always, I just like explaining this stuff to you. I hope it's helping. I love workshopping with you. Just like today, Crystal brought questions for me. You all are always more than welcome to, especially if you're on YouTube, throw it in the chat. Or if you're in my Zoom room, you're able to, put it in the chat, chat, email, whatever. I want to workshop with you all. Yes, I love going over the questions with you, but I want to be here to answer them. To answer your question, Mary, I don't think I need any help right now, but I know you all know if I'm going to do something, I'm going to come to you. Like if I need volunteers for recording and stuff like that, it's all you all come into these workshops. So happy, what is tomorrow? President's Day. What's tomorrow? There's a holiday tomorrow. I don't know what it is, but I know I don't have to teach. So it is time for me. President's Day. Hey. So what I'm going to do is if you're in the Zoom room and you're in North Carolina and you want to go over that problem with me and Grayson, you stay. Otherwise, if you're on YouTube, do I have anybody in North Carolina in my YouTube? Let me know, because if there's one of you, then I will just continue it and everybody else can go. But other than that, if nobody here is from North Carolina, I will end the live stream and we'll just do it in the Zoom room. No school tomorrow. When am I posting the next videos? Hopefully, that's what I plan on doing tomorrow. I mean, if it's nice outside, I might do that, but my plan really is to do it tomorrow. So I'm hoping that's it. All right, you all are so very welcome. You got this. Tell a friend, bring a friend with you. You know. Hey, Amani, you're
Thank
very
you. Good
welcome.
night.
Good night. And Miss Crystal and Miss Grace, and I'm assuming you're staying with me, so I'm going to end my live stream. Bye, guys. I will see you next time.